It's perfect. Smashing. Okay to steal the screen, Zara?
Yeah, all good.
Super, super. Okay, first of all, good morning to those in the States, and good afternoon, certainly, to those of us in UK and Europe, like myself. First of all, thanks for attending. My name's Andrew Etherington. I'm the CEO of P3MO. And today we're going to talk about how we're supporting our customers across the housing sector. As we know, there's been a lot of change in the sector recently, a lot of reform, and we'll talk about how we're supporting that throughout. You will, throughout the course of the next 30 minutes, you will see 4 pop-ups. It's just some multiple choice questions, so your engagement would be much appreciated. Just give some feedback as we go, really. So let me now share the screen, and I'll take you through the platform as a whole. Super. So to start off, the P3MO platform is fully configurable. So here we are greeted with what we call the home page. Now, there are various other features which we will go through today, but the overarching principle really is, how do you get into the platform, get what you need, and quite honestly, get out and on with the job? You know, it's about speed, it's about efficiency. And it's also, technology should be an enabler. It shouldn't be, a hindrance that then becomes this burden that's on top of the day-to-day challenge, quite honestly. So due to its configurability, text, colors, metrics can all be changed, and they can be changed at various levels of the business, or if you run a traditional project program portfolio hierarchy, then you can do multiple frameworks if it was agile, if it was waterfall, if you're maybe doing a variety of different initiatives, whether that be resident safety in this case, or maybe something around the Renters' Rights Act and the abolishment of Section 21 as an example in the UK. And that means that because it's configurable, it can help to ease adoption and obviously maximize sort of time to value. Now, what you're presented with when you first land is an overview. So within this housing quality and safety portfolio, we have 7 strategic objectives or projects or initiatives, as you may refer to. And we can see these come in various themes. We can have a look at the regions that they're being delivered in. And also we can start to look at directorates and maybe the phases, whether that's mobilisation, delivery, or assurance. And each of these can be tailored to suit. And down the bottom, we've got a quick flash of our projects. Now, we've only got 7 here. And with 7, it's very easy to do. However, if you had 70 or 700, then, customers of all various shapes and sizes, you might want to filter. So you want to be able to drill down very easily. And you can do that within a couple of clicks. So if we said, well, we want to see what's amber, at risk for many of us, and we can click on that and we can see that there's 1 in resident safety and there's 1 in home energy performance. So in this case, let's drill down into resident safety. And you can see down here, it's the tower safety case. Refresh. Now at this stage, you can either communicate through the platform, such as with what we call a comments function, which I'll show you throughout. But you could also then, with the 3rd click, drill down into the detail. And this is where, if you are not necessarily a project manager, but you might have a day job and be an operational lead, so to speak, but actually you find yourself delivering initiatives or projects on top of that. So this is the world where that individual would live in. So by clicking and drilling through, we come down into the detail. Now, one of the challenges that we've seen an awful lot is that there's a lot of systems now, whether that's Excel or PowerPoint, or whether that is other systems out there. A lot of them you have to go to various areas of the system to update. What we are doing and trying to be a bit different in is saying, well, how do you have one area that you don't have to leave? So this is where you can come in, you can select your various options. Maybe you need to add or remove directorates in this case. But actually, if you're then doing your updates, all of these drop downs can all be selected to suit. And you just type in your update like so. So this is your area where you would update your performance. Now we will go through each of these. Now, if I come down just to show you a couple of extra parts. One part that we get asked an awful lot is around external documentation that might be different from, the platform may not hold, but actually it is needed. This could be design documents, commercial contracts, supplier scopes, anything like that. And it's the ability to be able to, in its simplest form, link in documents from various other, whether that's SharePoint, whether it's different systems, that you can then access within the centralized collaborative space, essentially. So you're not having to remember where things are. You're able to very quickly and very easily drill down. Now, as you would expect, you can have stakeholders. Each of these stakeholders can be added. So we wanted to add James Smith. You can look to add James as a stakeholder, complete his role, add his email, so on and so forth. Very easy, very simple. And you're able to then do the same for the working team. But the key thing for the working team is you can start to assign their requirement, what is their load and capacity. And we'll touch more on that when we come into the housing delivery team in this case. And here you've got actions. Now, actions are planned items, not to be confused with planning. So if you had an action, you pop in a due date. Let's say it's housing admins, the account I'm on at the moment. You'll see that will show green. If not, it will highlight red as it being overdue if it's in the past. Now we'll go through each of these in turn, but what you will realise is when you go into planning, is you can have Gantt charts. And these Gantt charts, you can drag, you can move things around. It will give you warnings that if you move things out of key dates where you're starting to break dependencies, it will automatically inform you that you are going to break it, and therefore what's the impact on those elements that precede it. So you can start to then model what this would look like. Think of it as an automated version of MSP, essentially. Now, as much as Gantt charts are fantastic for board packs, and I will show you how you can create board packs and PowerPoint packs automatically as part of this, is you can have a table views because sometimes you just want a tactical tick list in essence that you can start to then drill through, do your quick updates. It's now blocked. It's blocked due to X with your comments, your descriptions, and you can start to then do some very quick updates on those items. That personally, we use this internally when it comes to what do we want to look at next week or the week after, and we just have a tactical view on the table. Now, what you will also see, scorecard objectives, risks, outcomes, and I'll come to funding in a second, but contractors, you will see it as all a similar user interface. Now, this is very intentional, and the reason for that is once you have learned one of these, on how it works. The only difference is in the drop downs that you complete. The layout, the sort of visualization of it is all the same, and that is to help aid the speed of adoption and obviously maximize how long you can get value from the system. Once you've learned once, you've learned them all in essence. Now, if I come on to funding, as with everything, you want it to be on time, to cost, at quality as well, as you can have various budgets. So here we have the estate renewal phase 1 budget. Within that budget, seen it's covering design and resident engagement, but you can have multiple instances. And think of these instances as, I guess, wallets, in a kitty, or cost centers for one. You might have another instance that's not for grant allocation, that might be for resourcing. And you then start to set your baseline budget, your spend, your forecast. You may change these and edit the terminology here, as I mentioned previously too. Now, if we change hats and let's go away from actually the individual who is updating it to the individual that might be a stakeholder, they might be, a program or a portfolio director of some sort, or they might just be the PMO, for example, a role that I've done in the past. So you want a holistic view. You don't want to have the detail necessarily. So if we go over here, and let's say everyone, really, there's a large focus on risk, certainly in the sector at the moment. So you go into risks, what you can start to see is where those risks then appear, and you can very quickly drill down and filter down as well. So what you'll see here is your list, I'll just close that for now, is your list of risks. Now, that is a long list. It's a prettier list than, Excel per se, but it is still a long list. So you want to be able to filter very quickly. So what we can say here is we can say, show me the risks and show me the ones that are high. Now that will then filter to show me exactly those that I need to focus on. And if I want to filter further, I want to say high impact and let's say medium probability. So again, you've got your short list, and that just allows you to then very quickly, if you were in a review, for example, you can start to update these, click save, move on, next one, so on and so forth. Now, what you can also do is communicate through the platform. Now, when we talk about communication, in essence, we call it comments. And those comments is about, you might have a query and you would just and tag someone. You might have a query where you're starting to question the data and you need context. So this is about how do you have the context that you're looking at and then the query against it. So you're all looking at the same information in essence. So you can start to do that as well. And what that will also do is to provide something that's very relevant in the sector, an audit trail, a version history that you can then refer back to as well. Now I'll just show a few of these. If you took planning just as an example, because that can be a big one for people. The planning, you can have it in a Gantt chart, or you can have it in the table as well. System's a bit slow there with the Wi-Fi. But then if I'm maybe, which is super, yep. And then you'll have your table view as well. And again, that works the same way. Show me what's due next week. You just have next week's tasks, which is at risk. So you can say, well, next week, I need to focus on these 6 in this case, because they're at risk at the moment. Now, what we also have is intake. Now, your intake essentially gives you the ability to create custom forms where you might be managing, some people will call it project intake, some people may call it pipeline. So you're starting to build a hopper in essence, of projects. So this is all very configurable. Anyone can then submit a request, and that can automatically go through, an approval flow. Now, as with anything, you want to be able to report on it. The system is live, of course. You can go into the system, you can get it instant. But in a lot of instances, you want maybe what some will call a document of record. In essence, a pack, a PowerPoint, or a PDF that you want to then run maybe a portfolio board on or a business review of some sort. Now, this is the report builder, and what it essentially allows you to do is to automate anything within the system into a PowerPoint report. And you'll see here we've got ones we've done previously. But to give you a quick flash on how it would work, if we would go in, we'd go in to create a report. Now, the report builder, as I said, will automatically take all of that data in the system. So it's all about how do you build once and then use many times. So you pop in, and what you have here is what we call system presets. So this is about how can you very quickly drag and drop things to automate various elements. So here's a project plan. So what we'll see is we've dropped that project plan in, and we can see on this attached level, we can start to change the projects that plan would be against as well. You can have multiple, you could have it at a portfolio level, and you can then readjust that view as well. Now, you can drag and drop things, you can move things about. Essentially, anything you can do in PowerPoint, you could essentially do in the report builder as well. And what you'll see here is that there's previous ones that we've done. You can also then look to duplicate these. So if you were doing the same report again, and actually all you wanted to do is to refresh the data, you can start to then duplicate it too. Now, the final thing I'll say on Report Builder is whilst duplicating and whilst those manual clicks are fine, and some of us like that, you can start to then automate what we call drum beats, which is essentially a governance cycle. So, internally, we actually have it that every Friday, we actually have it that every Friday at 9 a.m., we start to issue our reports, and that just gives time for an end of week, basically, review. So you can have multiple drum beats, but what you can also do, because conscious that if you do have a board review, you want to go through an approval process, you can start to have an approval workflow as well. So you might have one, which is QA or quality assurance. Let's just say in this case, we'll say this is Harriet that's doing that. Then we can move in. We might say that's a formal sign off. And that formal sign off is actually going to need more than one approver. It's going to need Daniel, and it's going to be, let's say, Keisha. So that then allows you to do an approval process. And once that's approved, the report will then be issued. As I said, it can be downloaded in PDF or PowerPoint, or it can actually be sent through the system itself. Now that concludes the demonstration. If I just have a quick, I'll discard that and I'll have a quick look at any questions. We did get sent some earlier on, which is super. So we have from Jane, with the Building Safety Act putting personal accountability on named individuals, how does P3MO help me evidence that remediation programs are actually on track? Super. So thanks. So if you take the Building Safety Act, obviously that's a massive focus at the moment for sure. To focus on the personal accountability part, I'll come back to a couple of points actually. So one is the audit. trail, or as we call project activity. Now, if you look at accountability, you can do that in two ways. There's assigning accountability against the project itself, sure, and limiting from a permission standpoint on who can influence that. So you have that accountability, that ownership, and that decision making and honesty to that individual and only that individual. But you can also assure that accountability from an audit trail perspective. And each of these elements allow you to then click through and see what the previous version was as well. Now, whilst that's in the system, of course, you can still drive that through the reports. But in terms of accountability, that's what I would recommend is you've got that audit trail and driving that through, and then you have those permissions to really focus on the individual. And also the ability really at a quick glance to see, are they taking accountability? Are they maintaining it? Is the information accurate? So on and so forth. Now, we do have another one. Yeah, we've got 20. This is from Brian. We've got 20 odd change initiatives running across development, assets, and compliance at once. Can I see all of them in one place, color coded by health? Yes, absolutely. So that's where that homepage becomes very important because you can start to then filter on various of these and you can set your levels. So you can very quickly see where they are and what they're doing. Of course, that's at a high level kind of project side. So if you wanted a bit more detail into some of the health status in particular, I would recommend you just expand. You have a quick look. Of course, if you want that on a report and you want a single page of overall performance, you can then do that on the report builder as well too. So a couple of ways in which you could do it and start to track provenance and obviously audit trails and version history as well. So this one we have from Becky. So we're a mid-sized association. Is the pricing and implementation realistic for a team of our size? Yes, absolutely. So we, in terms of size of organization, first of all, and then I'll come to pricing. We have customers as small as 20, employees in total, right through to customers that are listed on the, FTSE 100 with 80, 100,000 employees. So same platform, but we can configure it very, very differently. And then to give you an idea on pricing, you're really looking circa about £30 per user per month, and that'll vary based on volume as well. So we do discount as we go up in license numbers too. So we do have time for a few more. Let's see. Yeah, here's a good one, very relevant one. This is from Suzanne. We came off Microsoft Project Online because nobody used it properly. What makes P3MO stick where that didn't? Okay, this is a fantastic question. So one thing with Project Online in particular, and it is retiring this year in September. So if anyone is using it, just be aware that Microsoft have stopped updating it and it is being fully retired in September of this year. But it's also it also can be very complex to use. So there's a lot of solutions out there where you do need to be a trained individual, and it's not necessarily intuitive enough unless you know what you're doing. What we're really doing different is it's in the ease of use. It's first of all in the configuration. How can you make it relatable? It's not It is an out-the-box product, but it's how do you get a configurable solution with out-the-box pricing in essence. So it's about making it configurable, making it relatable to people, and it's not a one size fits all, which is very much Project Online and other systems tend to be mostly. Um, it's also then about uh, solutions like Microsoft Project Online. You have to live in to get the value. This is about how do you get in, get what you need. The system should do the work. That should support you in the governance, the visibility. It shouldn't be a burden to maintain and upkeep. That's why elements like automation and reporting has been a big focus for us alongside that configuration and how do you adapt to those various organizations. And then, of course, the one thing that is not platform related, but more service related, because our team, majority of them are sort of change experts, had a lot of experience in change. Myself being one of those, spent 20 years in that industry. Um, it's about how do you then provide a service that then supports adoption. And that's where we are then saying, well, as part of that licensing that you pay, you then have a support. You have what you call adoption support. And that is then where we maximize the learning, we maximize the rollout, and we maintain that through the life of the relationship as well. Should you have any queries or anything like that, it's all part of the service. Now we are almost at time, so I'd just like to say thank you all for attending. Thanks very much, taking the sort of half an hour out your day. If you would like to see more or hear more, please do reach out to us, hello@p3mo.io, or do reach out to myself directly. Be more than happy to take time with you, talk about any particular use cases in the sector that you're dealing with. And thanks very much. Have a good morning for those of you across the pond, and a good afternoon and evening for those of you closer to home. Thanks very much.